Hello everybody and welcome to another Project Heist themed video, and we are filming today because my hair is having a good day, and that is a really good reason to film because it does not always happen. And when you have a bad hair day, that is a day when you don't want to film. But today, looking like a fucking rock star. And in case you're new here, my name is Marina and I'm a storytelling teacher and aspiring author, and I'm writing a book in 3 months. I'm writing the first draft of a project called Project Heist. I started on the 1st of July. I'm attempting to finish it by the end of September. If you want to join me in this journey, if you want to come along, if you want to do your own project, please feel free to do it and tell me what are you working on and what are your expectations on this project that you're doing, because I'm very interested in other people's process and projects and how you guys do things in your life. And if you're wondering what is this Project Heist thingy that I'm talking about, this is my adult fantasy multiple POV heist theme project that I started working on last 1st of July, yes. And I've been documenting the process of writing the first draft of this book in this channel. I've already made a few videos about it. And in the last one, I mentioned that I was struggling a little bit with my habits lately in a way that was affecting my writing. And I thought it could be a cool idea to try and address all the changes that I'm going to make and actually start working on them today in this video. I know you can't change your life, despite of what most like self-help YouTube videos say. I don't think you can change your life in 1 day, 100 days, 1 year. Maybe you can in 1 year. Real change takes consistency, and we are not going to achieve consistency in the one afternoon. But I feel like getting started is sometimes the hardest part, at least it is for me, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to try and kickstart all of the little changes that I want to implement to fix my routine in the ways that it affects my writing or affects my life as a writer, because writing is not my job. I am an aspiring author. I would like to be a published author one day, but that means I have to be very disciplined to try and sneak writing into my daily routine. That's why the word routine or the concept of routine becomes so important for someone like me, someone with my profile. And if you are also a creative person that has a passion that has to be worked on the margins of your work life, you will probably understand me and why I want to do this. So let's first make some tea, because that's essential. That is a good habit that I have and that I'm going to keep having. And let's talk about these ideas that I've had for fixing my routine as a writer. And fire. While this fancy tea is brewing, let's address the main villain of this story, which is this guy. I've been having a little bit of a problem with my phone lately, and that problem is that I'm slightly addicted to it, and I hate that. I know that I'm not the only person in this world that has that problem, to struggle with keeping a healthy relationship with their phone, but the reality is that this makes me incredibly mad, because how ridiculous it is not being able or feeling like you're not able to control your use of an object. I keep thinking about it in these terms, and it keeps making me even more annoyed at myself and at industry and the phone magicians for doing this to us. I know that smartphones and apps and social media especially are all designed in a particularly evil way to keep us stuck on them and addicted to them, and that they take advantage of the way that our brains are designed. I don't think that should mean that we are not supposed to resist it. I think it's crazy the amount of hours we spend on a daily basis on our phones, and it's getting ridiculous. It's getting a little bit dystopian and a little bit scary, and it's not a little bit, it's a lot. It's very scary. So I'm not even a person who uses social media very much. I never use it unprompted or very rarely. That being said, I did start slowly quitting social media years ago, and I have not regretted it a single time. I only ever regret it when I fall back into the habit of using it. I do not miss it. I don't care. So here are the solutions that I've thought of. I want to swap my bad, unhealthy use of my phone for enriching, productive uses of my phone, because I do not think it's realistic for me at this point right now to just like quit it cold turkey. It's ridiculous, but it is what it is. I do have my phone in my hand most of the day. I want to fix that, but I also want to get the good things that it offers me. So I want to keep using language learning apps, like for example Duolingo, which is the one that I always use. I want to use an app called Daily Art, which shows you a piece of visual art every day and explains a little bit about it and about the author and about the artistic current or trend, or I'm not sure how you call it in English. And I want to use vibey atmospheric things like soundscapes or like backgrounds with like fireplace or a rainy forest, anything like that, that gives me a little bit of peace of mind, a little bit of inspiration. Another thing I'm happy using is blockers, like for example the only one I've ever used, which is Forest. In case you don't know Forest, this is an app that allows you to set up a timer for a specific time, and that starts the virtual growth of a tree. If you manage to not use your phone in that set period of time, your little virtual garden will get a little tree, and it is quite satisfying, especially if you're consistent with it, because you will have a little garden with lots of vegetation that you yourself have grown. And that one actually also has soundscapes, which is a really good tool. A couple of more writing specific habits that I haven't been doing so great lately. This one is very me. I spend more time planning my writing than actually writing, which is obviously not very optimal because it's already hard enough to find time to write in a busy daily life. So if you add the whole unnecessary preparation on top of it, this is not time for anything anymore. I think this one is very clearly just procrastination, and the most direct way to go about it is just do the thing. Just stop finding excuses and finding corners of your house that you haven't cleaned in a long time and that for some reason you need to clean right now, or other passions that you suddenly have that you didn't have before. Stop looking for obligations that you didn't even know you had. Just write. Very easy to say, very hard to do. And I think like it usually happens with procrastination, there's always a deeper reason for it. And after an admittedly very shallow reflection, I was able to realize that in my case, it's most likely just fear of failure, fear of the difficulty of it, fear of the discomfort. I watched a talk by Lee Bardugo, the author of Six of Crows, Shadow and Bone, and a bunch of other things within the Grishaverse. She gave this talk about how to get comfortable with discomfort. Not really how to, but like how you have to get comfortable with discomfort when you are going through a creative process. Because like in the case of writing a novel, they are really long, really testing journeys where you really need to learn to be resilient and to not get attached to your material too much and to be able to change things around. It is a difficult path, and that's why not that many people finish a book and not that many people manage to actually get it published, because it's tough and you gotta show up consistently for a really long time. I will leave the link to that talk in the description box because I think it's a very interesting one, and she's a great speaker. She's a very charismatic person and very funny as well. I've been trying to think about ways that I have been successfully able to fight this kind of like self-imposed writer's block in the past, and I've come up with 3 ideas that usually are pretty good for solving it. The first one and most straightforward one is set up a timer. This little guy right here is very, very powerful. It's one of those visual clocks where you can just set up a specific time that you want to be writing for. It can be as short as 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you like, and then it will just beep at the end of the session, and that's it. You don't need to write for any longer than that. These days, because I'm working on finishing this project or this first draft of the project very quickly, I try and aim for something more like 20 minutes, half an hour. It's still a really short time. I am not a person that usually can write for very long periods of time. I'm a pretty fast writer. Not so much with this project because I am plotting a tiny bit more than I usually do, since I'm very much a pantser or a discovery writer. But when I'm finding it really difficult to sit down and write because I don't have the motivation that day, I'm not feeling very well, or I've been particularly busy or stressed or whatever it is, I still can do 5 minutes. 5 minutes is like the smallest amount. Even it could be even 1 minute, but I think 5 works for me because 5 minutes sounds like nothing to my brain. Another thing that I find very useful is having a calendar where you can tick off the days where you write or you do whatever creative endeavor you want to do, because the completion of it all feels very satisfying. As you can see, I have not been perfect with this challenge, but that's fine because 3 months is a long period of time and life happens, and I wasn't aiming for a perfect streak this time. I was aiming more for consistency, like I said before, and I was more trying to get back to it when I fell off the wagon. Like for example, in this period of time, it doesn't matter so much to me that I didn't write for 4 days in a row, as it does that I did start writing again on the 5th one, and I wrote consistently the days after that. So yeah, I have hiccups, and I actually wrongly marked this one, which is today. But all of that is fine because we're not trying to write every single day. We're trying to finish a draft. And I'm giving myself a short period of time, in this case 3 months, because I don't want to get bored of it. I want to keep going and I want to finish it. And I know that if I give myself too much time, I will take too much time. And that's the reason for the 3-month mark. But for that, I really don't need to be there every single day. But it does help to see a month where like almost every day I did at least a little bit of writing. And if you're also motivated by completion, I also recommend this practice because it is nice to see all the little circles at the end of the period. Ooh, it's getting really dark outside. Hopefully it rains. I'm so sick of this like overcast, cloudy thing where it doesn't end up raining, but it feels like a bit of a cloudy headache kind of situation. My last idea for this category is to just write badly. Because if the problem is that I'm scared of doing it badly, of doing a bad job of my writing, why not just embrace the low quality writing and just go for it? Why not just open a document thinking, I'm going to write a horrible mess and I'm okay with it. I'm going to delve into it and I'm going to bask in the badness. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to try and write as badly as I can. Maybe not that, because that's going to be more effort for later and for editing and for everything that comes after the first draft. But if I'm aiming for a shitty first draft, surely I can aim for a shitty scene in a given moment. And I'm actually going to try that right now. I'm going to set up a timer for 5 minutes because there's a lot more that I want to do today. I want to address a bunch of other things and I won't have time otherwise. This might be another reason why I keep not writing very much, because I keep filming about writing. And I'm going to aim for a good scene, but if I can't manage to write a good scene, I'm just gonna be happy with a bad one. And that's gonna have to do until next draft, and that will be a problem for Marina from the future. I would get the satisfaction of ticking this day off if I hadn't done it already by accident. So that actually went pretty well. I managed to write 183 words, which is not very much, but it is something. And I wrote it in just 5 minutes. So I would consider that a success. And the quality, guess what? I don't think it was terrible. There was a little bit of character development, as much as you can fit into 183 words, and I'm just quite satisfied with the result, that's what the trick is. To trick yourself into doing it and then just be happy that you did it. It could have gone very differently. It could be pretty terrible, but then that would be exactly what I decided to do, to write a shitty scene, and that would be accomplished then. I can be happy about that as well. Something else that I notice affects my creativity and my writing when I neglect it for too long is the lack of exercise and the lack of contact with nature. These are all very cliche things, but the problem is that they're true. The problem is that the more you do them, the more you realize how right everybody was about how this kind of healthy habits affect your life positively. And believe me, there's nobody that is more annoyed than me at the fact that exercise does have a good impact on you and how you function as a human, because I would prefer not to have to do it. And the fact that I have to do it and that it's good for me sucks. But it is the truth. There's never been a time that I exercise where I feel worse than I did before, unless I get injured or something like that. So what I'm going to do now is do a very quick exercise routine, which I'm not going to show you because I've tried before and I always find the footage very silly looking. Not everything needs to be content, I reckon. It's also gonna be the first time in my entire life that I do a workout with lipstick on, but I'm not going to remove it. Not now. I did it. It was just 5 minutes. It was a bit more intense than I expected because I haven't been working out much lately, but I did it. Another tick off the list. And even though probably this is not the best way of doing it, just doing 5 minutes of this and 5 minutes of that, it's a lot of changing. I'm just doing it for the fun of it, for the experiment today. And normally I would go for a little longer with both the writing and the exercise. It feels like a pretty doable or attainable way of getting back into the habits that you want to be having, because 5 minutes are not intimidating at all, and more than that can be a little intimidating at times. And now I'm going to eat because I got really hungry. Getting really quite dark. I've had to turn on like 3 different lamps for this to not look like a graveyard. I think it's about to rain like crazy. I think I might have invoked the rain. I think I might be a witch. You might have not noticed, but I did a very important thing while I was eating my snack after exercising, which was to read a book instead of getting on my phone and watching videos or scrolling mindlessly. That is another one of those things that when I do it, it feels great, and then for some reason I seem to forget that I prefer doing that than scrolling. So it's good to be getting back to doing those things that actually nourish my creativity instead of harming it, because I feel like after scrolling for an hour, my brain is kind of not really empty. I was gonna say empty, but it's kind of mushed. And most of the ideas I've had for books in my life, I've had them while doing other creative things. After watching a movie or a show, or having an interesting talk with someone, or seeing a painting in a gallery, more than anything when I'm traveling. Traveling just seems to be one of the most effective ways that I have to come up with new ideas for books. So yeah, that was another thing that I wanted to talk about, that there's like full-on periods of time where I seem to accidentally block my main sources of inspiration, and no wonder I don't feel super creative at those times, because I haven't read a book for a really long time. I haven't watched anything that was too interesting or that sparked any kind of new idea in my head. Something that I really like to do, that I was planning on doing today, was to go to the library and just stroll around and just find random books that I know nothing about, just literally judging a book by its cover, picking it up, borrowing it and reading it, and see what it has to offer me. That is one way that I've ended up reading books that wouldn't necessarily be my first choice if I was gonna buy them. And it's something that I only started doing in the last few months or last year, and it really makes me so happy when I do it. The issue is that it's August and a lot of the libraries sadly closed during this month in here. There are some that remain open, but with the weather looking like this, I'm not risking it. I was also gonna go for a walk to complete the exercise part of this, but I just don't want to get soaked, so I'm gonna stay here for today. again. It is now the day after, and yesterday I couldn't end up doing a bunch of the things that, not a bunch, but like a couple of the things I wanted to do. I think I already told you I decided not to go for a walk because it was raining a lot, which was actually great because I had a massive headache before that, and after the rain the headache went away, which was wonderful. Today I have a brand new headache, which is great. I think the weather's changing. I think it has to rain a lot still, but it is not. It's kind of like overcast and it's not fully making the decision to start raining, and that's what's causing all of this head trouble, which is not great for writing. But let me tell you, I am managing. I am forcing myself to do it. And this morning was actually pretty good. I managed to write 500 words and I was so fully into it. And speaking of headaches, another one of the points I wanted to talk about in this vlog is that I, like many of us, use screens all day. I use them at work, I use them for leisure, I use them for writing. So that means at the end of the day, I've spent more time looking at screens than not doing that. And that's something I want to change because it's not great for my body, it's not great for my brain. And since there's some parts of it that I cannot avoid, such as the ones at work, and being realistic, I can't write as much or as quickly as I would like to if I do it by hand. But I thought about, for example, switching the little bit of planning that I don't do much planning, but the little bit of it that I do, to do it on a notebook instead of on the screen on my phone. I tend to just do it on my phone because then I can do it on the go. But I'm still trying to swap that for just a tiny little notebook. And the amount of planning I'm doing at the moment, like I said, is not much. On days that I'm not very inspired or that I have to push a little bit more for the writing, I'm not like dying to sit and write, I like to just list a few scenes that I plan on writing that day and maybe the days after that, so that I have something to look forward to. And something else that I think helps is having analog activities that you can do throughout the day, if nothing else, to give your eyes a little break and just to move my eyes away from the evil screens that seem to be the main antagonist of this vlog. The other thing is that I seem to seek entertainment at every second of my day that I'm not doing something else. There's a lot of talk nowadays about the benefits of being bored, by which I think we mean currently more not being constantly stimulated, because I think there's a difference. But it's getting more and more blurred because nowadays we feel like if we are not consuming some kind of content or doing something active, then we are bored. And I don't think it's the same thing. You could be reflecting, you could be thinking, you could be inventing things in your head or talking to human beings, which is also a really good thing to do. And it's making me almost miss those days back when I was a kid and I used to get bored all the time. But to me, back then it was like actual boredom. And now I really miss it, like a lot of adults, I assume. I yearn for those moments of not having something pressing that you need to get done now. But when I got bored as a kid, that was when I went and read a book. That was when I invented games. That was when I imagined different worlds, and when eventually I started writing. So I would like to try and not be entertained all day long, so that I can have those mental spaces to create and to imagine and maybe just to think, which at the moment sounds really scary. It's like, what do you mean I'm alone with my thoughts? What am I gonna say to myself? Which is ridiculous. So as a continuation of yesterday's attempt to fix my habits a little bit, I'm going to pick up today and try and have a more analog day, to try and write as much as my heart desires, because today that is a lot, and it would be such a shame to not use these rare days when all I can think about is going back to my book. And hopefully by implementing some of these tricks and some of these habits, that kind of day becomes more and more common. pretty sure the camera is crooked, but I don't understand why, because everything is in its right place and where it's supposed to be. We're gonna pretend it's fine. We watched The Odyssey today and it was... I don't know. Nolan, I have such a complicated relationship with Christopher Nolan. I think he's one of those directors that is capable of the best and the worst. And I expect so much of him that he manages to piss me off so much. So I have like this running joke with a lot of people that I know that he manages to disappoint me to such a deep level because I care so much about his fiction, and I don't know why I care so much. I always have these issues with the things that he makes. Nolan, you beautiful, pretentious, brilliant genius. I haven't written much this weekend. I didn't write at all yesterday, and I only wrote today, Sunday, about 100 words about a scene that involves a cat that I wrote solely because I felt like writing about a cat. And don't tell me that's not a good reason to sit down and write, even when you don't feel very motivated. It's funny making this kind of several day long vlogs because you can clearly see, or at least I'm realizing it as I'm making it, the fluctuation in motivation, drive, inspiration for writing, and how really it changes so much day to day. You can have a headache one day, like the other day I had a really big one, and the day after I had like a mild headache again. But yeah, it's been a few days of like weird weather that's been affecting my head, and I don't really have like a health excuse for the weekend. On the weekends I just like to take it easy because I used to not do that. And for example, last weekend I worked so much because I wanted to get that vlog out in time because it was the 1 month mark of the challenge, and I really wanted it to be out on that date. But this weekend I had a lot of chores to do around the house, and I decided to, other than that, just chill and rest and have fun and leisure and spend time, quality time with my beloved ones, and that's what I did. So I still get that little thing every now and then in the back of my head saying you should be writing, but I try to tell it to shut up and leave me alone. And actually, maybe if it does shut up, it will give me more time and mental space to do some writing instead of having to worry about weird voices in my head telling me to be ashamed of not writing. So shut up and let me write. I didn't have crazy complex expectations for this vlog. I didn't have like hypotheses that I wanted to prove or anything like that, but I think I did end up with two conclusions that represent the process that I've been through pretty well. One is that the more I have to do, the more I end up doing. So basically, I'm not a person who does that well with an empty schedule. So the last few days I tried to be a bit more quote-unquote productive without going crazy about that concept. But I also have to be careful because if I consistently put too much on my plate, on my daily schedule and the things that I have to do every day, I obviously end up burning out, so it's not consistent. But I have to find this balance because it's a thin line between doing too little, which means I don't end up doing anything, and doing too much. And the other one is a very obvious one. Smartphones have some good things to them. They have some good features. They have some useful applications that can help you concentrate. One of them was Forest, the one that I was showing you that I use to make myself sit down and write for a specific amount of time, and it rewards you with a little tree or a little plant that you get to plant on your garden. But in general, they are an evil presence in my life. I think my smartphone does very little to help me write, and it does a lot to take me away from the pages and from the keyboard and the story, and to distract me and to make me see what other people are doing, which is sometimes inspiring, but sometimes it can drag you down more than anything. So that's all from me today. Thank you so much for accompanying me once again in this journey. I'm very happy to have you here. I am thrilled that I get to share this challenge and this journey with you, and I hope to see you in the next video with another chapter of this Project Heist writing challenge. See you next time.